Good afternoon. I'm Mark Patterson, Deputy Secretary of State for Local Government, and we're welcoming you to our webinar on our new Lifeguard grant program. Just a couple of housekeeping matters first. People should be automatically muted, but if not, please mute yourself. And just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. I saw a question come in earlier about whether this is a recurring webinar. Right now it's one time and will be posted on the website at some point later. So today we're discussing our Lifeguard grant program, which is part of Governor Hochul's New York SWIMS initiative. That's a fairly substantial initiative that's attempting to increase access and safety for citizens in New York in terms of their access to pools and the safety in pools. The governor asked the Department of State to administer the Lifeguard grant program, and we'll be discussing what that entails as part of this initiative. Let me just make some introductions. Again, I'm Mark Patterson. I'm joined by Susan Savage, who many of you know from our countywide shared services program, Alexa A.C. Brown, who's our contract management specialist, Kyle Wilbur, who's the program manager for local government efficiency, and Mike Morris, who's my assistant to the Deputy Secretary. Our goals for today are to provide you with context over the cover letter and applications that we sent to eligible applicants on May 23rd. And hopefully we'll give you information that will be helpful in crafting applications which are due July 26th. A big part of today's meeting, after our presentation, we'll discuss the Q&A process so you can get clarity on questions, both for this meeting and as questions arise from applicants who have questions. I think we said earlier in a chat, but we'd like, if you have questions, you can enter them at any time in the chat room. Please hit send them to everyone so we have everyone has a record of the questions that are being asked. Some questions we will be able to answer in today's meeting, but also as this is a new program, certain answers may require a legal or fiscal review, so we will post those in a Q&A public way so you can keep track of that. So if your question is not answered today, we'll be cataloging all the questions and posting them for the question and answers in a DS website in coming days. Questions are always accepted at the swims@dos.ny.gov. That's SWIMS@dos.ny.gov email as well. We'll inform applicants when question and answers are posted and updated. And we'll also post this webinar in the coming days. The SWIMS call letter and application was sent to CEOs and our regular contacts at eligible counties and cities, and we made calls out to reach out to find out who the specific point person would be. So if you have additional staff that need to be added, or if you want to, I think Mike asked me to have them email our SWIMS distribution list to make sure to tell us who your contact person for the counties should be. I'm going to turn the webinar now over to Mike. Mike, I was thinking about wearing my Hawaiian shirt and shorts, but apparently we all chickened out on that. So we'll go straight to your overview of the program.
All right. Thanks, Mark, and welcome everybody. The New York SWIMS was presented by Governor Hochul as a multi-pronged effort to expand swimming opportunities across New York State. As noted, it's the largest statewide investment in swimming since the New Deal and a focus of this year's legislative budget. Some of the highlights of the New York SWIMS include building out municipal pools in high-needs areas, investing in our state parks and pools, getting kids to the pool, making SUNY pools community anchors, free sunscreen, and providing more lifeguards, which is ultimately why we are here today. Hang on one second. I'm told there's a technical difficulty on the sharing of the presentation.
we'd ask you to see if you can see it, but you're muted.
All right.
Yeah, no, you should still
No.
Okay.
go back to share, sorry.
Our technical expert, John Furtado.
Perfect.
There it is.
All right, thanks, John.
There we go.
All right, everybody seeing it?
Mhm.
All right, great. As mentioned, why are we here today? So,
You hit okay?
okay. As mentioned, lifeguard shortage has been felt across the country in recent years, particularly at public pools and beaches. Roughly a third of public pools have faced shortages in the last year, according to the American Lifeguard Association. As the 2024 swimming season, gets underway, we don't expect this year to be any different. So, Governor Hochul has made lifeguard recruitment and retention a critical piece of the New York SWIMS initiative. All right, great. We have unfrozen the computer. And so now we are talking about, continuing to talk about the lifeguard grant program. So the Department of State's Division of Local Government Services is administering the new non-competitive New York SWIMS lifeguard grant program, which is a $5 million program to incentivize recruitment, hiring, and retention of lifeguards by local governments. Essentially, this funding is designed to reimburse local governments for certain personnel costs. And that's why we're here to discuss it today. So, the grants will allow for counties to disperse funding to local governments to address a critical shortage of staff lifeguards available at public locations, including pools and beaches. Eligible uses include advertising costs, retention and referral bonuses, supplementing hourly wages, and salary increases. One question we've already received in regards to lifeguards is the lifeguard certification, and we will say that personnel expenses in support of lifeguards are eligible for reimbursement through the New York SWIMS program. So who can apply? All counties outside of New York City, as well as New York City, Albany, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and Yonkers are eligible applicants. With that said, the goal is for counties to work with their constituent local governments to identify public pools and beaches, identify needs and opportunities to target, and develop a plan and an application. Counties may fund projects at county-owned facilities using the funding as well. And with that, counties and municipalities are responsible for contractual and funding agreements between local governments. So all allocations are based on population bands. For example, New York City is approximately 40% of the state and receiving 40% of the total SWIMS allocation. It's not a perfect science, but the goal is to get fair amounts of money out to local governments. As mentioned, only the eligible applicants mentioned before may apply. However, cooperation and consultation will allow for effective plans to be developed. DOS will make one award per applicant. As mentioned, and just to reiterate, those contractual agreements among local governments are critical. So, next page. Eligible local governments must complete a request for funding application provided by DOS by the close of business on Friday, June 26th. Completed applications must be submitted through email to swims@dos.ny.gov, confirming your agency's interest and the locations of the public swimming areas that will be supported. This will be discretionary, reimbursement-based, grant contract only, and no advances will be made. Got a little ahead of myself there, but.
He might have said June 26th, but July 26th.
Or July 26th, I'm sorry. So Friday, July 26th, which is the last Friday in July. The term and period of funding for the contract is April 1st, 2024 through September 30th, 2025. This means measures done earlier this year will be accepted, so April 1 on. Funding will not be distributed to cities and counties without the completion of all requested information and the execution of the associated contract. DOS reserves the right to utilize unused funds to make additional awards at a future date. Upon procurement approval, DOS will issue a contract package. Upon receipt of the contract package, please return completed forms within 2 weeks of receipt to swims@dos.ny.gov. Eligible costs include supplies, personnel services, and fringe benefits. Agencies are permitted to submit 2 reimbursement vouchers for this contract. Reimbursement for expenses incurred after September 30, 2025 will not be eligible, and all reimbursement vouchers and supporting documentation must be submitted to DOS by December 31st, 2025. So this is essentially 2 years, so 2024 and 2025. FAQs. DOS is already in the process of reviewing questions and will post determinations and answers on the DOS website for all eligible applicants, likely in the coming days, and update them as they come in. Mark's already touched on this. For example, one of the questions on lifeguard certification, whether or not it was allowable at expense, and personnel expenses in support of certification are eligible. So anything related to New York SWIMS should be directed to the SWIMS email address at DOS, swims@dos.ny.gov. That will allow us to make sure that everything is received and distributed in a uniform fashion. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Kyle here.
Thanks, Mike. While we're bringing up the application, many of you probably have already seen a copy of it since you were recipients of an email announcing the program, but we wanted to just go through the information that you'll be requested and required to submit. This is not intended to be a super long or intrusive application. Really what we're asking for is just general information about the applicant, who the contact person will be for the period of the contract. Part C of the application is the project information and project costs. So depending upon how much money you're eligible for, that if you want to request the full amount, that would be your project cost. We're asking for a simple project title, pretty straightforward. We're supporting additional salaries for lifeguards in Essex County, say, or and then a brief description. A real important piece of this is going to be, here we have the start date, project time, but we want a large description of the project, and then also the partners. As Mike mentioned, we're only going to contract with 1 county or 6 cities, but there is an opportunity to share that funding with other local governments in your county. So we'll need to know who they are, what they're doing, and what locations you will be impacting through lifeguard staffing and other services. So just to go back, description of the proposed project, where you're working, where the additional resources will go, who you're working with, and what facilities will be part of the funding and the beneficiaries of the additional lifeguard services, and then what those services are. So again, this is so we know that the funding is going where it's supposed to be, this is really the critical piece of the application, and then what the basic outcome of that funding will be. We're gonna increase hours, staff, those types of things. Again, not too much detail. This is a fillable PDF. You're gonna email it back to us. We're gonna use that for the basis of your contract. So again, pretty straightforward, but remember, we wanna know who you're partnering with, if you're partnering, and what facilities you have that will be impacted. Organizational capacity, this is really just a question asked of all grants. How do we know that, just give us a description of how you're gonna, who the staff will be monitoring the contract and working with us and the relevant capacity, so we know that we'll be able to get the funding out the door and reimbursed appropriately. That's part one of the application. Part two of the application, there's a certification, just the name of our contact or the person certified to act on behalf of the local government, signed and dated, testing that the information is correct. And then the work plan and budget, again, this is very straightforward. You may just need one task, but basically each task is what you're doing. You could have 4 tasks, Monroe County working with Brighton, other towns in your county. Task 1 might be working with one town, task 2 might be working with a village, and just a brief description of what that's going to be, how long the money is going to be going to them, short narrative, again, performance measures, increased hours, increased staff, just so we know, have an idea of how the funds will be used, and again, helping us to develop a contract. Again, not intended to be crazy detailed, but information that we will use to help you. So that is the 9-page application for you. That's all you need to email back to us is the application with a cover email, as long as it's signed by the authorized representative. We will review it. If we have questions, we will ask you. If not, we will work with you on developing a contract. Pretty straightforward, and I'm sure there'll be questions, but again, what are you doing, who are you working with, how much you're going to spend to add to the lifeguard services provided in your county? Pretty straightforward.
So there's always questions, and Susan is on point for outreach and helping, organize getting questions back to us. AC will also be helping, so we can provide technical assistance to folks that go through that. It's easy to say when you see the screen, but then when you're filling it out, I'm sure everyone will have certain times when they want to ask a question. Is there anything about authorized signature that matters? Is that just somebody, whoever the county executive
we just asked that it's somebody who's authorized to act on behalf of that municipality.
All right, good. And we don't need any backup documentation of that. Good. Okay, just asking that question.
Take a second and gather some questions here.
Yeah.
And start to answer the ones we can today and move ahead with that. So bear with us 1 minute and we'll gather these questions together.
We have our first question from Jack Sears from Cuyahoga County. Is the money going to be reoccurring in nature or just one time? If it is non-reoccurring, does it make any sense when enhancing salaries to do stipends rather than base increases?
So this money is in the budget this year and at this point, can be used for 2024 or 2025.
Yeah, it can only be recurring if the legislature reappropriates the funds. The question about stipends, though, I think that's a good question, and up to you to determine what the best way to do that is. Obviously, if you raise salaries and then the money doesn't forthcoming, so that's I think why we talked about bonuses and stipends and other supports. So that's a good question. We did do some research in Top State Parks, and they raised salaries and had a better return on their efforts. So compensation increases does seem to matter.
Next question is just a small one, it's just, are we sending this presentation out afterwards?
Yes.
Yes, I figured. Next one is from Albany County, Kevin Butterfield. Can these funds be used for lifeguard certification?
Personnel expenses for certification, yes.
I believe that can answer a couple of our questions going forward.
I would just ask for maybe email a little more detail, what you mean by certification, who's paying for it?
I do see a couple of questions that go a little bit more detail.
Okay, good.
And we're gonna, and we've had a few questions about this, and we'll be putting that into the Q&A that we're releasing as well in the coming days.
Okay. Moving forward, from Sue Mowry, sorry about that. Will we not be able to eliminate the problem of the lack of lifeguards until the lifeguard instructor classes are more accessible, which would lead to more lifeguard classes able to be offered? Can funds be used to pay for staff to become certified Red Cross instructors?
I think we'll have to get back to you on that one.
I think it's similar to the certification.
All right. Next up is from Alex Hamilton. This is a little bit of a longer question here, and there's a little bit more detail. This is from the city of Corning. And he says, I was wondering if these grant funds could be used to about training opportunities. From my experience managing 2 municipal aquatic facilities, is that wages are not much of a factor as the lack of trained individuals. And then he has firsthand seen lifeguards reduce their hours at privately owned indoor pools to work at one of the outdoor facilities at lower wages, as they would rather be in the outdoor environment during the summer swimming season. So basically it just goes towards training opportunities. So can funds be used for that?
We'll get back to you.
Yeah, our goal is to do as much as we can to use your solutions to solve the problem. Again, we did some research and wages seem to be an issue for state parks. When they raised the salaries, they were able to recruit more people, but we also understand training's an issue, so we will do our best to provide funds in compliance with the statute.
This is another one from John, from earlier. Are municipal pools the only eligible entities, or all pools?
This is for municipal-owned pools.
Swimming facilities.
Yeah, so pools, beaches, but definitely municipal-owned.
Yeah, it doesn't go to the Y, right?
Right.
Just a moment, I'm trying to, okay. This is from Fiona Bowen. Can we use funds to try to make lifeguard staffing more sustainable, i.e., can we use the funds to create a program with local schools to train and or recruit the lifeguards?
I think that's another one we have to look into. Training sounds like a big question, but as the call letter states now, it's for salaries and referral bonuses, but we can.
Recruiting is included, so.
Okay.
Whatever that. That was me, sorry. I was about to read my own thing. Sorry. Would reimbursement for increased number of WSI and WSI back to training, which we're gonna have to get back on, folks, for training. Can the outcome for retention, or is there a requirement for increase staff hours?
Retention as well.
Retention as well as?
Yes, because you can use the money to supplement salaries.
We'll confirm all these in the Q&A as well.
Are required CPR, first aid, and physical exams eligible?
Again, we'll answer that in the Q&A.
Do we separate as task 1 and task 2 in different purposes? For example, advertising and retention bonuses?
Again, these are very detailed. You know, we're gonna have to get back to you on many of these, with some specific responses. So we'll make sure we send the Q&As out to everybody. So the intent of the Q&As now is just to answer questions about the application itself and submission, I think.
There is one here that has to do with the years. I do understand the confusion, because, from Holly Smith, is it 2024 or 2025, or 2024 and 2025?
So the funding is eligible from April 1st of '24 through September 30th of 2025. So if a local government is doing something now that started April 1st, we could reimburse them for those costs.
Right, up to and through September of
Exactly.
2025. And I believe someone asked something about conditioning programs.
Again,
Which I don't believe would be.
that's another one we will post. I mean, these are all great. I mean,
No, they are really all great
we added.
This next one, though, is from Glenda Ford, and I think this one's a little bit more clear. Can grant be used to pay salaries and increase the number of lifeguards, or is it just for supplementing the salaries?
We allow supplementing hourly life wages as well as lifeguard salary increases.
Right, so I mean, I guess that would depend on the work plan that you submitted,
Yes.
that's submitted, and then we determine from there.
Yeah.
And so far, that was all of the questions. The other ones are pertaining to training and the recruitment.
And, you know, we know there's gonna be lots of questions. So as we're, you know, we've said a few times, make sure to get these into the swims@dos.ny.email.
Oh, one moment, sorry. So one thing came in from Donald Collins, and I think this is important. Actually, it is in there, but it's splitting hairs, but schools are mentioned consistently, but are public beach lifeguard salaries eligible? And they are.
Yeah.
As long as it's a public, you know, public area.
He's talking about Crellin Park, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Donna.
Yeah, so that's definitely eligible. He says, hey, Kyle. WSI salaries are eligible.
I don't know what that is.
From Peggy's it's
Water safety instructors,
water safe instructors.
I'm guessing.
Again, that's one we will post an answer to.
Water safe.
I mean, is that a
Sounds
lifeguard?
like, it's like, someone's training lifeguards, so makes,
Yep, yeah, no, that's,
and personnel costs probably makes sense. But
yeah, that makes sense. 1 second. Do counties need to show payment of county funds to the partner municipalities to claim reimbursement, or can we submit their claim per plan and pass the funds through?
This is a reimbursement program, so the money will have to be expended.
Yeah. I hope that was clear for Mr. Wheeler. Are there any other questions?
We've got a couple minutes if people are still thinking of them.
And we understand that the season has already begun. We tried to design the program to be as simple as possible, and compliant with the statute, as was presented in the budget. So, we will work as hard as we can to, get funds out to counties, subsequent to their plan, and to answer any questions that people have. Again, we're open to ongoing discussions about what people are looking for.
Just really quickly, from Becky, does the application need to come directly from the county, or can individual municipality apply?
One application per county,
One application per county.
Except for the
except for the cities.
Except for the
cities, the designated cities.
Yeah, except for the 5 designated cities.
6, New York City, Albany,
Sorry.
Buffalo, Syracuse, Rochester,
I consider
and
New York City just so separate. Sorry about that, New York City.
So do they.
And that was, were there any other questions from anyone? I'm just gonna wait a couple more minutes here.
And we hope to get those out. Looks like there's another one.
Oh,
I thought
yeah.
I just saw.
Hold on just a second. I'm just trying to... Okay, so a little bit more detail, back to the question on reimbursement. And says, does the county have to show proof of reimbursement to the local municipality before being reimbursed by the state? Or can the proof of the local municipality expending the funds be proof enough for reimbursement?
We need to show reimbursement of the local government's expenses. That's how our contracts work.
Yeah, so far.
It would be the same thing if it was just the county.
Right.
I think we mentioned this, but, the question did come in, can county spend it on county facilities? And the answer to that is yes. You know, county pools and beaches as well.
Yeah,
Right.
And we also are hoping that when you work with your facilities or municipality facilities, that you're identifying areas of need, where there's, limited access, and we can increase access to pools in minority areas or poverty areas, so, that's sort of a focus if we can get that.
So far, I don't see any new questions at this time. Please be reminded that if you have any additional questions, please email the swims.dos.ny.gov at any time, and we will go ahead and address those questions. And then a Q&A will be released at some point after this.
And we will, let you know by email, as mentioned earlier, when those questions are, Q&As are posted. We'll send an email around on that. And just to reiterate what Mark said earlier, but if you have staff that are point on this project for counties or cities, and would like to include them to the distribution list, so they are the people getting the emails right away, please email the SWIMS email account.
Yeah, the contact information would be helpful, so Susan can reach out to them. Yeah. All right, well, thank you again. I know this was a quick overview, and a lot of the questions are still going to require us to do some additional work with our fiscal and legal teams, but we will get back to you as quickly as possible, and we look forward to working with you on this program. So thank you again. I appreciate your attendance. We had 79 people on the line. That's great, great turnout. I hope that reflects your interest, and we hope that gets this program rolling. So thank you again, and we'll sign off now.